So without further ado, let's welcome Peter.
You're there. Thank you, ladies, gentlemen, and others. This is the big lecture that, no, you shouldn't laugh. The ones that are laughing, you're the ones I'm talking about. From the basic physics. Oh, you wonder why I didn't tell any jokes today and in my lectures? The guy who writes my jokes has got depressed. I said, right, when I get rich and famous, you can be my joke writer. And what happens? He gets depressed. So I'll tell you how you fix depression in this lecture. From the basic physics, it became clear that the basic 12 energy compartments in NES are incomplete. And Milo Wolf suggests that there are actually 24 compartments. You go to get to the smallest possible wavelength without going to infinity, you get to 10 to the 24th. In 2006, I tested the compartments for energetic integrators 13, 14, 15, and 16, but we didn't release them to you because we had no idea what they were about, what they were doing, and we thought it would be irresponsible. We knew about the other ones because that's where the Chinese medical system finishes at EI12 or spleen pancreas. And we've got, on top of that, we've got 13, 14, 15, 16, which all turned out to be in the X-ray range. Remember the X-ray range, if you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, the X-ray range is huge. You've got a tiny little thing for visible light, which we all know about because we've got eyes. But the X-ray spectrum is huge. Can we have another slide? In 2006, I began to make new matches with these very high frequency energetic integrators. And here are the results. We got one, EI13 is called hearing and learning. EI13 is going into the eye health. It's not there yet, but I was just talking to our engineers. It'll be going into the final version. Look at this. Lateral ventricular canals, going right across here. Cerebellum. Fourth ventricle, hugely important. Temporal lobes. All this area for hearing. You don't learn if you don't hear. That's why we call it hearing and learning. You've got to get one before you get the other. Cortis organ is supposed to be what goes wrong in hearing loss. Cerebrospinal fluid, third ventricle, EI14 is another one. This one I call neurons and synapses. This is electrochemistry in action. If you do get something wrong with the electrochemical system of the body, this is the one. It gives you a bit of a tingle. It really does. It wakes you up. This one was third ventricle, visual sensory sensor, optical chiasma, optic thalamus, caudate nucleus. Caudate nucleus turned out to be huge, a very important energetic receptor in the brain. If you don't have an operating caudate nucleus, you can't learn languages. This is what happened to me with Spanish verbs. Never mind. So I took a whole lot and then I could learn Spanish verbs all right. To a point. Okay, los verbos españoles son difíciles. Can we have another one? 15 we called ventricles. It was for neurons, heart center of brain, where it's the heat center of brain, not heart center. Correct that, it's heat center. Basal nucleus, thalamus, cerebrospinal, cortis organ again, fourth ventricle again, and synapses. EI16 was for the forebrain, thalamus, epiphysis, limbic system. The pineal gland, so much beloved by yogis and mystics, is in EI16. You can add pineal gland there if you don't want to call it epiphysis. Okay, forebrain, all the higher levels. Now these are, and the limbic system is something for dealing with emotion, some emotional process center. You can go on Google, put in limbic system, read all about what is known about limbic system. We haven't got time here today to go, and the same with Corti's organ. So if you don't know any neurology, which is possible, you have to go and learn a bit of neurology before you understand 13, 14, 15, 16. So you've got some homework to do for Peter on the limbic system and forebrain and thalamus and so on. Often very little at all is known about the function of these structures in the organs. Can we have another slide, please, Trish? No, it's not that one. Can we go back? Back. That's it. Now, remember, I know indelibly in your brain it is recorded the first part of the field which relates to the parts of the brain. Remember that? And then there was the heart, and then there was the matrix. 3 parts of the body field. They actually have to talk to each other. They're superimposed over each other. But we've got points where they link. And we need, as healers, we need to know where they link. The extraordinary thing, we've got EI 13, 14, 15, 16 in that configuration, anti-clockwise. When put in that configuration, they will all talk back to cerebral cortex hologram infraceutical, which is another part of the body field. Great. We've got some integration happening. We've got to know how to integrate the body to stop them getting sick. We found that it's best not to use the 13 on its own, and it's best to use all together. The body likes to work in a pattern. So please remember, when and if you get eye health, use 13, 14, 15, 16 with cerebral cortex hologram, and you'll get a nice, smooth result. But if you don't use cerebral cortex hologram, you want to resolve conflicts in the problem, you use Liberator. Now, the new Liberator version has transcell focus in it. It will be available as a bottle called Liberator, and it's got transcell focus in it. If you use the new Liberator instead of cerebral cortex hologram with 13, 14, 15, 16, you're treating depression. And I mean real clinical depression. My friend works in a drug and alcohol thing, and you can imagine why he's got depressed. Everybody comes and dumps all their problems on them while they're drunk. And you're not. So yeah, it's enough to make you depressed. So that's why there's no jokes today. That should be done only by people who are able to deal with these sorts of problems. So we're saying the morphic field links to the matrix. En directo, it goes direct, doesn't go through the heart. You can add the heart too if you like. These all relate to the conscious emotions which are stored in the matrix of the human body field. You ever had a massage and burst into tears, or if you've ever had an orgasm in your toes, you know that memories are stored all over your body, not anything much to do with the head. Don't store them in your head at all. The concept of the quadrants along the lines of the American author, where we divide the human body field into 4, is an important concept, and we developed this with the 16 ways, matches 16 ways beautifully, and we simply impose 16 ways over the top of the quadrant. Where did the quadrant come from? No, I didn't read this American book by this guy who divides personalities into 4 types. We did it another way. Can we have the next one? We said there's a proton in wave, there's a proton out wave. They're in the same place. They're just undulations in the fabric of space. That's all they are. Electron in wave and electron out wave we think is more of a spherical standing wave, and this one is logarithmic standing wave. It seemed to be 2. That's where we got the quadrant, and believe it or not, we could superimpose that onto our system and it matched. And Dylan and I nearly fell over. I mean, the fact that there's that much coherence in NES with science, with some maths that we still don't know, well, that we do know a bit of, but we don't know all about. So, next one. We then thought, well, the energy in space, such as it is from the subatomic particles in the quantum world, are attracted to cavities. They will collect naturally in cavities, and the size, the volume of the cavity determines the frequency. This is all simple physics and simple electronics. But we found cranial cavity is EIs 13 to 16, heart cavity is EI 5 to 8, thoracic cavity 1 to 4, and abdominal cavity 9, 10, 11, 12. They're all 4 sets of 4. Isn't it incredible? You just want to treat the whole of the heart cavity. Do EI 5, 6, 7, 8 together. They've got to be in the right order. Remember, all these slides will be available online in a very short time when the programmers have finished fixing up a few blips here and there. Well, this seemed to be very exciting. I went on and matched these new quadrants to the 4 germinal layers in embryology. Can we have that one? Ruka pointed out that there are 4 layers in the embryo, not 3, because mesoderm has an external and internal part. Mesoderm splits. So we've got these 4 layers. In other words, the development of the embryo is related to the way in which energy actually functions in space. Totally incredible stuff. If you want to follow up more about the quadrant, the first idea about the 4 personality types and the division of emotions comes from a book by Robert Plutchik, Emotions and Life, put out by American Psychological Association. So then I took this idea to Milo Wolf. I managed to meet the great man. He's 84 and he's just getting there. So we had nice long talk about everything, and he said, well, what are the ramifications of my discovery about the structure of the photon and the electron and the standing wave in space idea of the electron? And I said, well, it looks as if the body field's non-homogeneous, that it's got 3 parts. And he said, well, you'd expect it to have 3 parts because there are 3 subatomic real particles and hundreds of appearances. So he was quite interested in that. The trouble is, if there is a neutron for the heart, for the magnetic field around the heart, we've got no idea how to test it to see whether it's true. So it remains a philosophical idea. Now we've got to find out what is emotional energy. You know, some people walk into the room and it's magnetic, and everybody turns to. And I found that with Nigerians, I went on a plane to Lagos. I guess I'm one of the few people who went to Lagos. But these black guys have got this incredible strong body field. And apparently it's very rude to look at them because you're taking away their field. You have to stick to your field, and you're not allowed to look at their field too much. Very powerful people have put out this huge field. So I was interested in this. That's what I call emotional energy, putting out this field. Can we have another one? Remember we said that the cell driver suddenly becomes incredibly powerful when it gets a bit of source energy, and you get the source energy by breathing in, but it comes in through the skin anyway. You get source energy, or yuan qi. It goes into one of the cavities. There are 4 major cavities in the body. And then there's a disease linked to not enough energy getting to that thing. I've got abdominal, I've got colitis. There's not enough energy getting to my abdomen from the source. There's a blockage. Haven't found it yet. So another one, heart, will lead to a heart attack or the heart cavity. Head, or the cranial cavity, you get neural degeneration. Thoracic, you get asthma, and so on. This is a very simple model. We're not flying with this. I'm reminding you about how the body works. First of all, we get energy, and then you superimpose information. You've got to have energy first. So, all right, that's energy. So what is information? And how does it get into our body field? We decided that our emotions are like little packets of data that get encapsulated. And we run on these little packets. And the idea is to break these packets open and stop them from being a nuisance. And when we do, we can do this by using neuro-linguistic programming. In other words, these key words in our life that help us dissolve into tears or register emotions. Emotions are the interface between ourselves and our environment. They're not just a little extra thing you get when you're not British. You know, they're our life. No, I said there weren't going to be any jokes today. These emotions are your life. This is how you interact. And what is so great about 16 Ways, what I love about 16 Ways is projecting energy out of the body. This is what a lot of Europeans don't know how to do, or they've been told not to do it, or they never learn. So you can get a blockage of yuan qi going in, which will cause one problem, and a problem with the expression of emotion going out, which is another problem. And next year we'll know all about it. Just at the moment we're saying, aha, we think we found a really important thing again. The yogis knew about this a long time ago, and what happens with yogic knowledge is it gets rediscovered every few hundred years. Emotions are dynamic occurrences between the 4 cavities. Bits of information appear to be added, and I'm pretty sure that they're coming from the cortex, where they're generated. I say this because the cortex is a bugger of a thing. It won't come right as it keeps generating emotions that are, well, inappropriate to the situation. The storage of emotions in cavities of the body is an idea from the Hindus, but the Hindu chakras don't represent the body organs entirely. The Hindu chakras, like the diaphragm chakra, there's no organ at the diaphragm. It turns out it's a global scaling node. You see what I mean? So we're going to explain yogism to you in detail today. The storage of emotions in physical cavities like the heart or the abdomen, all massagers know you must never massage the abdomen. There's so much stored there, there's so much there, leave it alone. You can do the toes and the calves and the thighs and not the abdomen now. That's why the chakras are something about consciousness. That is for sure. And the Hindus saw this idea of chakras going up as consciousness expanding. That's what consciousness does. It expands to encompass more. But we're not there yet. We're still talking about how the 4 cavities of the body collect yuan chi or prana. We need to be able to say why a disease strikes in one particular part of the body but not another. And this is a hard one. It's all right, hard, but I've got the answer. And how I got the answer was, I got part of the answer from an acupuncture teacher in Taiwan by the name of Dr. J.D. Van Buren, who worked for many years in Holland, who had an acupuncture college of some note there, a wonderful man. He gave me some of this stuff, and at the time I wondered what on earth it was. He was giving us the morphic field. Here it is. The Chinese system has got two systems, like a figure eight, but in spheres. It's not just, always have one. No, it divides into two. Can we have the next one? This is the most important diagram of NES, I think. Practitioners should put it on the wall. This is your morphic field written into a sphere. The upper sphere finishes at the navel. Another sphere going down to the toes. And when you're not quite here yet, your legs are hooked up and your arms are folded to fit in with the two spheres. Morphic field. This is about creation. And this is the subconscious map. Morphic field, subconscious and dynamic. Matrix field, conscious and passive. You don't want to have all your memories all suddenly tossed around, There's a permanent messages are stored in the matrix of the body. All through not just in there's matrix in the head, there's connective tissue everywhere. Now look at this. Governor vessel 20, crown chakra, whatever you call it, going down to navel. We've got a crossbar right through the middle where the two energies manage to cross. We get the heart pericardium. Get left lung, right lung, then the tip of the shoulder. Incredibly important piece of equipment, this tip of the shoulder. So just a little touch. That's very powerful. If you want to knock them out, you hit them just there. But being nice. That's connecting to their heart. You see that? You're connecting to an axis. They don't want to go up to somebody, don't mind if I touch your navel. It's a bit private, isn't it? So this way, for contact, just touch them on the shoulder. When they come into the surgery, just a touch the shoulder. That's beautiful. Now it turns out this got even more interesting. We've got the arms, it's the upper part of the body, but the legs belong to the lower sphere of the morphic field. The bits in between, the quadrants, we've got brain, we've got peripheral nervous system, we've got muscular system, we've got stomach and gut, the gut. Nice. Isn't it incredible? That's how your body is energetically arranged into those systems. And look at the spine, cervical spine, followed by thoracic, 12 thoracics. Absolutely beautiful. You heard of an infoceutical called BFA? It's a morphic field treater. Fantastic for people with awfully serious diseases, like you have 1 week to live. BFA is huge because it's re-establishing the morphic fields. It's the chiropractor's delight because the axis of the body is the spine. The other axis, you've got another mini axis, you've got an axis across the hips too, we'll see in a minute. It's an axis across the shoulders. Your shoulder axis doesn't fit with your cervical spine axis. You just take BFA. Oh, I'm all right. BFA is one of the wonder in pharmaceuticals, an incredible thing. I hope you understand BFA now. Yeah, it's about the axes of the body. Now, can we have the lower morphic field, go from the sole of the feet up to the uterus or male genitals, depending on whether an M or an F, and then up to the navel. You remember global scaling? We've got nodes. We've got a node here, which is the first chakra. Okay. We've got another navel one. Left kidney, right kidney. In Chinese medicine, you always wanted to know why the kidney energy is supposed to help the uterus and the genitals. Now you know the kidney energy is an axis straight into the uterus and male genitals. Lovely stuff. Now the left, the trochanters, great trochanters, go wrong all the time. The chiropractors delight. The axis is left hip, right hip, trochanter, going into sacrum. When this goes out of action, you go to the chiropractor and you can fix it up physically. You can take BFA, it might work. Then we look at the bits between. In between, we've got all the joints all together are in this little sector. Arteries and veins. In other words, if your joints won't come right, you treat the lower spine and the kidneys. Affects all joints. You do each part of the axis to affect the bits in. If you want to treat arteries and veins all together, you do the right kidney and the legs. Legs is the lower axis. Bet you never thought of that before. Works a bit. Remember, the morphic field is the blueprint of the body. You start with the blueprints. Important stuff. Can we have slide 11? This one. You've just looked at one system of the body called the morphic field, and it fits, that's Chinese medicine. Absolutely delightful stuff. Now we go to Indian medicine, which is also just as delightful, and no, they don't eat the same things. Doesn't that look a little bit like your global scaling diagram with all the nodes? In Chinese medicine, there are two systems. There's a morphic field system. This has all been lost. You know, China has wars and revolutions and warlords and blah, you know. And the bits of paper end up in the tip and the intellectuals get thrown into jail and so on. However, the knowledge pops up again. Here it is. Crown chakra is a major node. The neck is a big node. The diaphragm is a big node. The perineum, your favourite bit, there it is. It's a big node. This is global scaling stuff in the body. And in between, we've got these funny things. We've got cavities. We've got a heart, a special heart cavity of its own inside thoracic. It's a double cavity. Cavity inside a cavity, and then abdominal cavity. So with each one, you'll get characteristic diseases. I want you to stop thinking about disease and think about how we can get the body energy to work. That's much better. The disease disappears when you get the body energy to work. What's this all about? You heard that wonderful lecture yesterday on global scaling of Rainer Verfeger. music to my ears. He said in this very spot, it's about the proton at resting state. When you go to your lowest energy state is when you're in meditation, you're using this part of your body field. You're returning to resting state. When you're asleep, well, deep sleep. Okay, and what does this do? This is the long-term regulation of the body. Heart rate, pH, hormones, enzymes. This is what the allopaths say they're trying to fix, but they don't, because they didn't listen to Peter and Rainer. That's just why, isn't it? Rainer loves this. So think about that. That's a system in the body that is related to the lowest energy state possible of the proton. You say, well, what's the other one? I thought you'd never ask. The other one, this is what we want to know from yesterday. It's about your attention. You follow the bouncing ball. Your attention is a ball. Think of it as a ball. When you get a massive crisis, like in Spain, I'm getting taxi-jacked, my attention goes outside my head. It belongs in here. Yes. I spent $700 going to a yogi who told me that I should keep my attention inside my head because I was sitting there, he was so boring. I was watching the birds, and I was watching there's a plane. See, how did you know there's a plane there? You're all watching the plane. But the normal way to operate is to keep your attention inside your head. When there's a crisis, your attention goes out to deal with it. And this is where the emotions change. Where is your attention? When there's a crisis, your attention is outside and your breath is coming in or out. So that's another interesting factor. Your attention. It's normally just behind your eyes. Do you agree that it's in your pineal? Just straight behind the eyes, your pineal. If it goes a couple of inches, pituitary, beg your pardon, pituitary just behind the eyes. If you go a little bit back further, you've got to the thalamus. And now you're imprinting. Why do some people imprint shocks and get cancer and die, and other people don't? Well, we're in the don't variety because we're here. But if your attention is in the thalamus and you're imprinting, when there's a big accident or nasty event, something nasty in the woodshed, you imprint it. If your attention is in the pituitary or behind your eyes, you don't imprint it. And it's normally there. So if you're not prepared, somebody said about Ruckaheimer's stuff, if you're not prepared for an emergency, it imprints. This is quite correct. I think that's right. So keep your attention just behind your eyes, and if you wish to imprint something or meditate or go to a deeper state of consciousness, you put it back another 2 or 3 inches. More. Can we have the global scaling diagram? That's just to remind you what the fractal of the body looks like. Ta-da, ta-da. Fractals are ever diminishing pictures, the same picture but smaller. You know all that stuff. But it regresses infinitely, smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So again, we're talking about fractals in relation. Emotions are going to affect the big nodes in the body. That is a statement. Emotions affect the big nodes of the body. You don't get, I've got this really emotional problem with my fingernail. No. Remember our 2 spheres? That's what emotions affect, the morphic field. So you're going to get endless problems with your shoulder. You're going to get endless problems in your neck. You're going to, emotional. How can you tell if it's emotional or physical? Look on Peter's diagram. If it's on the morphic field diagram, it's emotional. Hey, You know, one day you could start making a living. You've got to know things. Krishna, when he visited Earth on one of his frequent spaceships, pointed out that what we're here for is to gain knowledge. So go for it. Can we have some more knowledge, please, on 13? We've got positive emotions. Remember positive emotions? That was before you got married. Oh, no joke. No mother-in-law, no marriage jokes. Energetic terrain versus emotion. Energetic terrain, naught, is about learning. If you've got severe learning difficulties and you can't read or write, it's ET naught. ET1, the emotion we've linked with it is, you can get this, you don't have to write it. Look, you've even got joy. We can do joy. Amazing stuff. And remember where we said the ETs were generated from? Somewhere in the cortex. No wonder we can't get the cortex to come right when we're treating it, because that's the source of the problem. It's the newest part of the brain, and God hadn't fully tested it before he put it in. That is the problem as I see it. Conscious emotions, can we have... We've got to get the morphic field, bits of brain, linking with the connective tissue, the matrix, the body fluid, which is super important. And the link is thus. We've done this one, cerebral cortex. We haven't done brainstem. EI5, 6, 7 and 8. See how it crosses over? It's got a strange... The configuration is important. Left-right crossings. I don't want to go into left-right crossings. I could never do left and right at school, and I've always been a bit shaky about whether I'm walking backwards or not, you know. So, you're all right, laughing at my joke. So, some of these cross and some of them don't. Really weird. And remember that there's succussion, there's a crossover of the left and right nerves, the back of the brain. Sometimes there, sometimes isn't. Cerebellum, 11, 12, 10, 11, 12. That should be 13. Shouldn't it? 9. Should be EI. Oh, it is EI 9. 9, 10, 11, 12 has got one cross. And cerebral medulla is 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is how we link between the matrix and the morphic field. It's one part of the body field linking up with another. And I'm saying, well, you can give a whole lot, EI 1, 2, 3, 4, all together in one big, like, tandem. Can we go back a little bit? Back more. 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 That'll do. Remember this position. It's like real estate. Remember the position. Okay, remember we had EI 1, 2, 3, 4 here. If you do EI 1, 2, 3, 4 all together in that order, you're treating the whole muscular system. You do 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. There's a lot of superimposition in the body field. You get one thing superimposed over another. If one doesn't work, you try another. As simple as that. But that's giving you an idea of how to combine EIs into groups of 4 and link them. Yeah, you can go back to where we were now. That's it. Now we have an infoceutical called cerebral medulla and brainstem and so on. If the person's very upset, it isn't going to work. use Liberator. Liberator will go anywhere in those big circles. Liberator is good stuff. I was talking to a dear and wonderful friend of mine who said he took Liberator straight away. Got the sore shoulder. Now you know why it was your shoulder. When you took Liberator, your shoulder gets sore. Take Liberator, your spine gets sore. It'll be one of those things, the key parts of the morphic field. Lovely stuff. Don't use Liberator on its own for people who are really upset, like, have to take drugs. I mean, there are people who can't cope, and we have drugs for them, but for most of us, we have other ways. So if you give a lot of morphic field correction to these people, all of a sudden, it brings up, whenever you release emotions, you get energy out. You might get anger and distress. So, of course, you use Liberator followed by ESR a few minutes later, and you don't get that reaction. Next one. You all want to get enlightened, right? Particularly after the talk yesterday by Thornton. You can't wait to get there, right? That was a wake-up call to get liberated now before it's too late, before you're dead. So, how do we do it? We can't get liberated by infoceuticals, but it certainly helps to get the idea about what's possible. We've got to go from subconscious to conscious. We've got to go from where? We've got to go from subconscious to conscious. And the answer is Transcell Focus and Liberator. They're now in one infoceutical. You get realization. Suddenly it all becomes clear to you how bad you've been in your life and how you're suddenly going to be better. Well, I know it happens in the movies quite a lot, but the movies is fantasy. You have to work on it, but there you are. Liberator with Transcell Focus is helping to link two big fields in your body together, so it's a basic one. I love Liberator. I took it for 2 weeks and then I started flying lessons. Now you want to go the other way. I've been to all the outer planets. Subconscious emotions. Without some people need a spaceship. Subconscious emotions. We've got to go from conscious to subconscious. You've got to be able to move both ways. You don't want to get stuck anywhere. Subconscious emotions don't belong in the matrix, but they belong in the morphic field. But the subconscious is what gives the body its shape. This is the one related to the 4 layers of embryology, I tell you again. This is the one to treat deep-seated and supposedly incurable diseases. And all of these are the ones that affect what the body's shape looks like. You will want to go from subconscious to conscious. Remember in homeopathy you've got this idea of retracing, to going back to a former bit of your disease, or even when the disease originated. And that's good, that's a healing sign. Transcell Focus and Liberator will do this. You go backwards. You've got to go backwards to resolve a problem that was associated with that injury or insult or family something. We love our families, but they can be difficult. So there you are. Knowing how to link these two parts of the field is the key to healing. And we won't say we've got it by the neck, but we know it's there and we know what we should try to do. Retracing ideas are found in genetics, psychotherapy, NLP, and homeopathy, as well as NES. So it's not exactly news, but it is an important part of healing. To go back to when the accident happened and relive it, or make adjustments in your thinking about whether or not you did the right thing at the right time. Now we can link up a little bit with your stuff in 16 ways. I think now we've filled in a few gaps about how it's working, because 16 ways is dynamic yoga from which has been cognized out of space by this amazing guy. It is good stuff. The yoga that you might learn, the stretching and breathing and position yoga and having peppermint tea, it's not very, it can be dynamic. The breathing got dropped somewhere. I mean, 700 years old from the Upanishads or something. It's old stuff. Somewhere the breathing has got lost. There is a breathing ritual for each position, which in general isn't taught. It has disappeared. That is dynamic yoga, but you see, we've got a new sort of yoga's popped up that's dynamic, isn't it? Your attention's going in and out of the body, as it should. And we're relating it to postures, but instead of being static, it's moving. Now, this is going to blow a whole lot of people away. Did anyone get blown away yesterday with the 16 ways? It's pretty powerful, because I think it's dynamic yoga. And so we're still piecing together what emotions seem to belong with what posture and what sort of dynamism. And you've got a number of balls in the air at the same time. So it's just like a party. You've got attention. Finally got a laugh out of it. Finally we've got the attention going back and forth. Out there, in there, and further back in the pineal. By 3 positions. You need your attention on the outside for dealing with Spanish taxi drivers, right? And your family and stuff. Not all bad, it can be good. Then we've got the in-breath, which can get interrupted, doesn't work, and you get the out-breath going wrong. All the time it looks as if the emotions are being generated to help ourselves. You agree? Yeah, you've got to have emotions. This is our life. Our life consists of emotion. Like your life consists of the activity of your heart. That is an important satori that you are possibly getting towards, that the love in the heart is something, and the emotions in the cortex is something else. Remember this huge satori, that the myocardium cannot deal with negative emotions. You get your client in there for the first time, oh, you can't fix me, I'm a bad case, and I'm sorry. And they're so down, you've got to treat their heart, don't you? You've got to start with the heart. And that's nice. They need to be able to experience just one positive emotion, even for a fleeting second. So you're beginning to get the idea of this is all a major development on what we were telling you last year. It's not different, there's just more. It's very lovely stuff. We're finding it. A lot of this is going into eye health conceptually, so it'll be easier for you to get people out of the state they're in. What are you going to do to treat the heart? You've given them EI4. No? Let's go back. This is learning. This is what Krishna said. You've got to learn. Go back to the heart. There we are. What is happening with your wonderful yoga? You see the concentration is on the arm, the position of the arm, movement of the arm. And you're working, in the morphic field, you're working on this axis. Left lung, right lung, heart, so on. You want to send energy to the heart so they can experience positive emotion. First of all, have they tried breathing lately? Oh yes, well I do a bit. And then what is happening with your arms? What? Oh, they were learning it, that's great. You see what I mean? You've got so many things you can do with your client. You don't have to poke them necessarily. Oh, that sounds a bit rude. You don't have to probe them with different instruments. There are other things like, and where is your attention? Their attention will be way out the window. Sick people think there's an emergency. They're not in the now. They're not happening now. We've got all this from Thornton. We've got lots of stuff from Thornton. We've got the now is where the health is. You've got to be healthy now. It's not going to be healthy in 5 years when you finish taking this course of something or other. It's now. To get in the now, we've got to get this heart happening. What stops the heart energy getting out? Don't know. Heart energy goes out. This is what cancer people find difficult to do, to send out a heart message. Like I'm doing a BBC broadcast to you now from the heart. It's nice for you, and it's nice for me. In front of the heart, there is a kidney meridian. You're going right down here. It's a strange meridian. It's the only yin meridian on the yang part of the body. It's the only yang meridian on the yin part of the body. Oh, I was just doing Japanese to see if you were listening. All right, kidney. When the kidney doesn't work, your heart chakra can't work. Okay? If you get a heart block, you can't send that energy out. You say, can you express affection for people and send energy out? And they go, no. Just treat that. And kidney is about the fear. The fear will stop the heart from working. So you get them working all right. You get them outside. You say, can you imagine you're breathing in through the top of your head? And then you're breathing out through your heart. It's very powerful. You only do it a couple of minutes each day. Tremendously powerful stuff. So we're working on the morphic field, which is that emotional jumble of emotions that are changing. No wonder people don't understand. And Woody Allen, I mean, look at Woody Allen. He's been through 6 psychiatrists and he's still just the same Woody Allen. So nothing changed. So you have to recognize that the thing about your healing ministrations is to change people. And you can't change anybody else until you change yourself, you see. So I want you all to do this too, because you're growing so that you can help your clients more. There's very little more. We've got slide 16, and this is putting it all together about what is possible with healing with very simple stuff. Yeah, we're just looking at the quadrants again. This quadrant, 13, 14, 15, 16, EIs, is about impatience or domination, submission and relaxation. You know why my joke writer got depressed? Because the government started telling him what he had to do when he was healing alcoholics. Guess what? Submission, domination, impatience, relaxation. That's what made him depressed. It fits exactly, doesn't it? Then we get another one. Was this the heart cavity? This one was heart cavity. Openness to life and trust, vulnerability and blame. You don't open up your heart in a dangerous situation because you're going to get nothing worse than being stabbed in the heart. You're vulnerable in the heart. And so on. Worry and perfectionism, intuition and shock. That was 1, 2, 3, 4. That was about the bowels. Anyone who knows the anal personality type who's excessively worried about dirt and cleanliness and meticulousness. You do need meticulousness. Otherwise you wouldn't have wonderful German cars. So I've just got a new German car. Wonderful. You've got to have attention to detail, but it can go too far. You can see only the little picture, but not the big picture. Here we are, worry and perfectionism, intuition or shock, belonging in that quadrant for the, is that the abdomen? And 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to try to superimpose all my quad diagrams. They all go one over the other. And you'll be able to see in your client what may be happening. And just put your finger, remember if you're any sort of healer, you know, in China, maybe India, these people that just touch in one spot. They just know, suddenly something happens. Well, you can get to that level of understanding of the body field, so you can do this, but it's going to take years, but you've got to start now. So, the last one, craving closeness and involvement, detachment and aversion. What was that number? 5, 6, 7, 8? 9, 10, 11, 12. Can you see that you could give a whole lot of EIs in a row just from that one diagram once you work out what sort of person is this, you know? They arrive and they're sorry they're late and they were sorry there was this and they had to do such and blah, blah, blah. You just listen for a while. Dr. Van Buren, the great acupuncture teacher in Holland, used to say, listen to the tone in the voice, don't listen to what they're saying. Sure, you can pick up the tone of the voice as well, but you can also listen to what they're saying, at least for the first 2 sentences. Oh, you get these people who want to tell you what they had for breakfast and so on. If they're telling you what they had for breakfast, they're a worry and perfectionism. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. There you are. It's healing is getting easier. All you have to do is understand how the body field is structured and how you can move from one bit to the other. And remember, it's the heart that links, the heart field links them up better than everything. And we haven't finished the research on the heart field. We got the quad, but now there's another little bit in the middle. So the heart field next year, our next conference, we'll be able to fill in a little bit more of the gaps. Thank you for your attention so much.